All right. Hello, and welcome again to Learning Opportunities for Service and Beyond. Thank you to all of you who have been posting to the chat question about the goal you hope to accomplish during your year of service. It's so great to see such positive and professional goals, and also recognize that you're commenting on ways you want to grow, as well as fulfill the duties of your VISTA assignment. You may have joined VISTA to become involved in anti-poverty causes or to learn about nonprofit management. Perhaps you saw an opportunity to become a better public speaker or to help a specific community that is meaningful to you.
This session shows you how to make the most of your year of service so that you can get the most out of what you want to learn, and while you are building capacity in the community, you are also building your own capacity. The VISTA program offers a range of resources to support your professional development, so we want to let you know what's available. In this session, we'll identify ways that you can build your skills to help you in your service and point you to resources to make it happen. During your orientation, you learned some of the basics about your VISTA assignment description, or VAD. You may have even begun identifying skills that you will need to accomplish your VAD. Now, you will learn of the many ways to develop those skills and ensure your success.
Hi, I am Ann Oti, and I am a VISTA Suitability and Screening Specialist.
And I am Eric Powell, an AmeriCorps VISTA Training Coordinator.
And we will be your hosts today from VISTA headquarters in Washington, D.C. You'll also see our colleagues, Andy and Scott, in the chat and Q&A, and Scott will also be joining us to do a run-through of the VISTA campus a little later on. So here is our agenda for today. We'll start by looking at the individual development plan as a tool for your ongoing learning, and then we will explore 4 areas relevant to VISTA service. We'll show you a range of useful resources on the VISTA campus and on lots of other sites, and then we'll see what questions you have. Throughout today's presentation, we'll have opportunities for you to participate. If this works for everyone, I'll ask Eric to start us off.
Thank you, Ann. As Ann mentioned and alluded to, this webinar is really focused on the professional development of VISTA members, which is you. All of you recently completed your VISTA orientation, which introduced you to the VISTA program, its benefits, and to concepts of poverty and theories of change. But you've also been engaged in learning the specifics of your VISTA role and the site where you're serving through your on-site orientation and training. And even as these formal trainings wind down, you will need to think about what comes next for you personally and professionally. Even when you've finished on-site training, your learning as a VISTA is not over.
First, let's revisit one of your most important tools. Your responsibilities as a VISTA are outlined in the VISTA assignment description, or VAD. During orientation, you had a chance to review your VAD and think about what it'll take to accomplish it. You and your supervisor will likely come up with additional activities to support the achievement of your objectives and to capitalize on your unique strengths. So your VAD may be refined somewhat in the coming weeks. So we want to hear from you guys again, and this time we'll use the chat feature. If you don't see the chat panel on the right side of your screen, open it now by clicking on the chat icon in the upper right corner. Use the chat panel to share what skills you will need to accomplish your VAD. Hopefully you're familiar with what is in your VISTA assignment description, or VAD. Whether your VAD includes fundraising, volunteer recruitment, community engagement, or event management, it's likely there are things in there that you haven't done before. So you'll need to learn how to do them, and to learn them, you'll need a plan.
Looks like quite a few are coming in. Rachel says she needs patience. That's something I think all of us can use as we work with volunteers and people, and sometimes what is an urgent priority for us is not urgent for someone else.
Organization, exclamation point.
Definitely. Brian mentions public speaking and community engagement, something that a lot of VISTAs do during their year of service.
Researching, data analysis, grant writing.
Web accessibility skills, not just for VISTA, but also for the community. A lot around communication.
Mm-hmm. An open mind and creativity.
More building partnerships, creativity, that's definitely one, because VISTAS should be creative and innovative and also helping to think of new and different ways to solve problems and eliminate poverty, so that's great.
Definitely.
We'll certainly keep those coming. We're going to transition to the next slide, but it's always good to see more of what VISTAS are doing and help you also see in your line of work what other VISTAS are doing and what skills you can help each other with as we go through some of the resources. So as we talked about the VAD, the VISTA assignment description, it really does form the foundation of your work plan, so you'll really want to explore it thoroughly and understand it. First, start by meeting with your supervisors to review your VAD and develop measurable milestones and deliverables. By now, you should have already had a meeting with your supervisor, but if you haven't, make sure to talk to them to set one up. Take lots of notes and write down any areas that need clarification so that you fully understand your assignment. Keep it handy so that you can refer back to it periodically and track your progress. And as you get further into your service, you and your VISTA supervisor may come up with additional activities to capitalize on your unique strengths. So your VAD may evolve somewhat from the original version. Your VISTA supervisor is the person to answer questions about the VAD, its time frame, and other aspects of your assignment. As you serve, you will have opportunities to develop or sharpen knowledge and skills that will help you carry out your VAD more effectively. One way to help you plan for what skills or knowledge you will need to develop is by creating what we call an Individual Development Plan, or IDP. An Individual Development Plan is a great tool for capturing the skills you need and identifying specific learning activities that you can undertake to develop the skills you need. There are a lot of different ways that you can organize an IDP. We have a simple template available for download from the VISTA campus. The link is posted in the chat panel. We also gave an example on the screen of how to fill this out. It should be pretty simple and easy to explain, but we wanted to at least help you with that. For example, if my VAD says that grant writing is something that I will be doing, I may first need to think about how much do I already know about grant writing. If I know a little bit about grant writing, but would like to develop my skills more, I may list this skill as a medium priority. From there, you will want to identify opportunities for how you will develop that skill. For this example, I may want to apply to take the Resource Development, Fundraising, and Grant Writing course on the VISTA campus. So make sure that you think of your individual development plan as the bridge between your VAD and actually accomplishing your goals. You may know where you want to end up, but the individual development plan allows you to pilot your path with concrete action steps for getting there. And as we go through this session today, start thinking about and writing down what you need and the resources that you need as we discuss them that may help you gain those skills.
So now we're going to walk through 4 main areas of learning that seem useful for most VISTAs. And for each, we will show you resources on the campus and beyond to guide your learning in this area. And we'll look at ways you can connect with other VISTAs on the subject.
So before we actually share the resources, let me quickly just give you some legal fine print, as we typically have to do. We're going to show you a number of websites and resources that might be helpful, but remember that just because we mention them, that does not mean that they are endorsed by the VISTA program or by the Corporation for National and Community Service. You will want to figure out which resources are right for you based on your organization and your needs. To help you follow along with the presentation and avoid having to write down all the resources we mention, there is a handout that you can download that lists the resources we'll be mentioning during this presentation.
Okay, so you've been in VISTA for just about a few weeks, but you need to know the ins and outs of VISTA service. You learned a lot of it before you started service, but there's plenty more to know. Let's use the raise hand feature of WebEx. It's located at the bottom of the participant panel in the upper right corner of the screen. So if you know the answer to this question, I want you to click raise hand. How do you reapply for another year of VISTA service? Click raise hand if you know the answer.
I was going to make the joke and say, I got to hand it to you, but I think I'm the only one that thinks that would be funny, so I will ignore that. But it does look like several people have their hands raised. A few more are coming up, so that's good.
Cool. So for those of you who don't know the answer, you're going to want to look at the VISTA member handbook. You can now put your hands down.
One of the first steps as you are getting settled is to read the VISTA member handbook that Ann just mentioned. You, of course, don't have to memorize it, but you should get to know its details because it outlines the policies of the VISTA program and the process for requesting assistance. It has answers to questions such as, how many personal days do you get during your year of service? Or, what do you do if you want to take college classes? And, where do I get support if I have a family emergency? The handbook is located on the VISTA campus in the section that is called Life as a VISTA.
Next, get to know the organization where you're serving. Dive into some documents that lay the foundation for your organization, including their strategic plan, their mission and vision. If there have been VISTAs at your site before, review their accomplishments through past quarterly reports, which your supervisor can probably share with you. Meet with people in various departments to learn about their roles and how you might work together. These contacts are also likely to have connections in the community that could be very, very helpful. All right, so we'd like to hear from you again, and since we're on a webinar, let's take advantage of one of those other features available to us, the poll. On the right is a poll about how often you meet with your supervisor. We're talking about formal meetings, meaning that the both of you have actually scheduled time to discuss identified topics. We're not talking about just answering a question in passing or having an impromptu 5-minute check-in. So please take a moment to answer this question. How frequently do you formally meet with your supervisor? Multiple times each week, once a week, once every 2 weeks, about once a month, or E, I haven't yet set up formal meetings with my supervisor. Once you've selected your answer, be sure to click the Submit button. We know that schedules are busy with meetings, site visits, activities, and more, and it can be challenging to sit down and have an actual meeting. However, one of the biggest elements to a VISTA member's success, personally and professionally, is good supervision and a good member service relationship. We want you to have the adequate support that you need as you continue to grow and learn, and we also want you to do your part to ensure your supervisor and the organization know about your challenges and accomplishments. All right, looks like it came in, and the majority of you meet about once a week.
That's something that we like to hear. We know everyone's schedule is a little bit different, but the one thing that we'll add is, from our perspective, meeting once a week is great because there's a lot that goes on and things can change. But for those of you who mention that you meet about once a month, or especially those of you who have not yet set up a formal meeting, definitely reach out to your supervisor today or tomorrow to at least start off with every other week, if not every week, because you figure there's only 52 weeks of service and time flies. So the VISTA member-supervisor relationship is absolutely essential to your success and the success of the VISTA program.
So while we're still talking about supervisors, let's chat a bit about what to do if your supervisor isn't providing the support you need. There may be times when a situation with your supervisor is too challenging for you to manage on your own. For example, if you feel your supervisor is treating you unfairly or harassing you, if your supervisor is unavailable and you don't know when you'll see them again, or if you have so many supervisors that you can't get any decisions made on your project. If you have a challenge that's preventing you from having a successful VISTA service experience, there are some resources that you can turn to. If your project has a VISTA leader, you can approach your leader for general advice, problem solving, and they can help facilitate difficult conversations. Your CNCS state office can also assist with any issues you might have relating to how your VISTA project is being managed, its ability to attain its goals, or any issue that cannot be resolved by your supervisor. They can also intervene if you're not receiving supervision, and if the things you are being asked to do are very different from what is in your VAD. If your tasks aren't capacity building, you're replacing a staff member, and if you encounter harassment or discrimination. You can also turn to other VISTAs, either at your project or across the country, for advice or support. The VISTA campus has a variety of discussion forums where you can post questions and ask your colleagues for input. We actually have a webinar that digs deep into supervisor issues and how to manage them. The webinar is called Managing Up, Navigating the VISTA Supervisor Relationship. An on-demand version is available on the webinars page of the VISTA campus. Okay, so I've added 2 more life hacks: regular meetings with your supervisor and getting additional support when you need it.
So we do want to take a second to hear from you again. Very different question. Since you've been on your site for a couple of weeks, has anything popped up that makes you nervous about your VAD? Maybe you're worried about being asked to do something that is beyond your current skill set. Or maybe the tasks outlined just seem too big and almost impossible. Could there be anything that we could provide that would alleviate this nervousness? On the flip side of that, we also want to know what makes you excited about your VAD. What in your VAD is exciting? Is there anything specific that you are working on or gearing up to work on that you are particularly passionate about? It's always great to hear from people about the wonderful work that they're doing, so please let us know. We'll give you a few minutes to share your ideas, again posting what, if anything, are you nervous about in your VAD, as well as what are you most excited to work on. Please post those in the chat panel so that we and everyone on the webinar can see and learn from them. Sarah, I was smiling at your comment because I fly a lot, so I took that a little bit literally, which is my bad. But I obviously understand that VISTAs are getting pilot programs and startup things off the ground and really trying to initiate things, so being nervous about that is certainly something to think about. Especially if you're a first-year VISTA or not a lot of groundwork has been laid before you and you're really just trying to make a positive difference and get things going.
Mm-hmm.
Tarsha mentions being excited about the challenge to learn new skills, but nervous about meeting deadlines. That's definitely good as well. Elizabeth mentions being excited about helping create new promotional flyers with the marketing team at their location. Great opportunity to showcase design and communication skills. And Myron mentions being anxious about the amount of work to do while learning new skills all along the way. VISTA service sometimes is a lot of work, but again, that's where, as Ann mentioned, the meeting and the relationship between you and your supervisor is key to determining how much is too much work and what actually is accomplishable in your year of service.
Mm-hmm. So many of you identified some knowledge areas and skills that you realize that you need to know more in order to be effective in carrying out your VAD. It's likely your VAD includes things that you've never done before, which is okay, and that will give you an opportunity to learn something new. So that's a perfect segue to the next 3 topics, which relates to the kinds of things that many VISTA members are responsible for. So we've looked at some life hacks to make your service easier. Let's move on to the other 3 areas that relate to VISTA assignments. We will start with community outreach. This can encompass a lot, including general communication, which you all mentioned needing to have the communication skills, social media, as well as direct face-to-face outreach. We'll show you how, we'll show you some campus resources, some resources beyond the campus, as well as some peer resources from other VISTAs. There are several VISTA campus resources that dig into capacity building, which is essential to community development work, and one that helps you challenge your own assumptions called Not Always What You Think.
Definitely recommend checking that out. And if you like interactivity, there is an interactive tutorial on community building that's called the 5 C's, and it really looks at the community, connections, control, cache, and collective action. The last resource listed here, Strengthening Your Organization, Your Community, and Your Projects, really shows you how to build your program sustainability by deepening your ties to the surrounding community. You'll want to use the faceted search feature on the VISTA campus to narrow down the results to get to the resources and tutorials that best meet your needs. Also on the VISTA campus, which is a place I'm sure you'll be frequently going to for professional development and learning opportunities, there's a number of on-demand webinars on topics relating to outreach that you can watch at your convenience at any time during your year of service. Here's just a few to mention. There's one called Writing Powerful Impact Statements. To engage others fully in your project, you need to tell a compelling story of what your project is doing, and this webinar helps you to do that. Another one's called Planning a Social Media Campaign for Your Project. This webinar guides you in developing a social media plan through setting realistic goals, examining components of a social media plan, and implementing it. And of course, there's one called Building a Professional Network for Service and Career. Since we want you to accomplish your VAD, but we also hope that you personally and professionally get something out of your VISTA year. And as part of that development, you'll need to develop partnerships, interact with many people, and engage with the community. Use this webinar to leverage networks for professional success and social impact during and after your year of service. We typically offer webinars every month, so there's plenty of opportunities to learn from a live webinar and the recordings. And to access the live and on-demand webinars, you go to the VISTA campus, click on the Connect and Learn tab, and then click on Webinars. We will also send you email notices once webinars are available so you know what's coming up. Be sure to register for the webinar in advance and add it to your calendar so you will not end up with scheduling conflicts.
In addition to the resources created by the VISTA program, there is information and advice from other VISTA members available through the VISTA campus. First is the discussion forums. For example, there is a thread called Getting Information to Program Clients in the forum, You and the Work. This one looks at ways of reaching out to clients and potential clients of the program. The best way to stay connected through the forums is to subscribe to each forum that interests you. Another way to get automatically subscribed is to reply to a post. We'll show you how a bit later. Another section of the campus contains materials created by VISTA leaders as part of the Action Learning Challenge. It's called the Team Products page, and the area of the community outreach is a guide to gaining community buy-in for your VISTA project that highlights 9 best practices for successful community participation.
We know that the VISTA campus has a lot of information, but when you look beyond the VISTA campus to other resources, here's a fantastic resource developed by the University of Kansas. The Community Toolbox is a free, we do like the word free, online resource for those working to build healthier communities and bring about social change. It offers thousands of pages of tips and tools for taking action in communities. Whether it's community assessment, planning, evaluation, or advocacy, the Community Toolbox has something to offer among its 300 educational modules and other free tools. It is currently available in English, Spanish, and Arabic. It includes extensive readings on community building, toolkits, a troubleshooting guide, and a database of best practices. They even offer Ask an Advisor, where you can submit a question to their panel of experts or browse answers to other people's questions.
Here are some other resources outside of VISTA that might interest you. To connect to others working in the community, look for a chapter of a young nonprofit professionals network in your area. YNPN can be a great place to network, and some of them offer learning opportunities and social events as well. The Building Movement Project has put together a handbook on community engagement. They call it the NICE Guide, N-I-C-E, Nonprofits Integrating Community Engagement, and it's really nice. In terms of online courses, here's just a sampling of a few examples. Allison has a free course on encouraging diverse community involvement. Coursera offers one on integrated marketing communications that looks at how to communicate effectively with various audiences that could help your outreach efforts. And then your supervisor may also have recommendations for additional trainings you can take related to your VAD.
We spoke a lot about community outreach, but now let's move from community outreach to volunteer mobilization, since so many VISTAs are mobilizing and engaging volunteers. Let's take a look at what kinds of resources might advance your service in this area. Whether it's a huge part of your VAD or an occasional need for special events, you probably have a need at some point to engage volunteers in what you're doing. Fortunately, there's a lot available on the subject. Starting with the VISTA campus, there's an entire section dedicated to volunteer management with a range of resources. The VISTA program also offers a 10-week free online course in volunteer mobilization that you can earn college credit recommendation from the American Council on Education. And again, all that information is on the VISTA campus. And there's also additional resources located in other areas of the VISTA campus. So take a quick search to turn up more resources. For example, there's a resource specifically on engaging volunteers in fundraising events.
And as you might have guessed, there are a number of on-demand webinars related to volunteer mobilization that you can watch at your convenience. Here are just a few. One, high-impact volunteer recruitment. In this webinar, you learn about ways to recruit the best volunteers for your project. There's one called Building Sustainability into a Volunteer Program, which shows how to anticipate volunteer expectations and then build relationships that enhance volunteer engagement. And then there's one called Creating Group Volunteer Opportunities that Engage and Inspire, where you can learn how to plan a group volunteer project to engage community volunteers and attract them to your project. And I actually listened to that one during my service year. So again, you can access live and on-demand webinars on the webinars page of the VISTA campus.
The campus also has information and advice from other VISTA members, which we oftentimes say you are each other's best resource, so you definitely want to pay attention to this. The discussion forums on the campus have lots of posts about volunteers. For example, there's currently a discussion thread called Volunteer Record Keeping that discusses the pros and cons of various databases and software packages to manage volunteer data. Another discussion thread looks at ways of getting volunteers that will stick around. There's more, so I do encourage you to use the search feature in the forums to see what your colleagues have shared, and be sure to weigh in and add your own advice and voice. There's also something that we call the Action Learning Team that produces products, and there's a page on the campus called the Action Learning Team Products page that contains a really fantastic guide to National Days of Service project ideas. It provides instructions, planning timelines, and templates for planning and organizing successful community volunteer projects for National Days of Service, such as September 11th Day of Service, MLK Day of Service, etc.
And then looking outside the VISTA program, there are many places to find information on volunteer management. First, look for a local volunteer managers group in your area. There are local associations, sometimes called DOVIAs, Directors of Volunteers and Agencies, that offer regular meetings, trainings, and networking opportunities. At the national level, there's a group called ALIVE, the Association of Leaders in Volunteer Engagement. And if there's not a group in your area, or if you simply prefer online interaction, there's a wealth of online communities and discussion sites for volunteer managers.
Of course, you will find a wealth of learning resources all over the internet as well. Energize Incorporated has the most comprehensive collection of resources on volunteer management. There are professional development resources, tools related to career advancement, links to online communities, and a directory of local volunteer management groups. Volunteer Match offers more than just a powerful volunteer recruitment site. They offer free webinars on a range of volunteer management topics. They offer books and resources, and they also offer a volunteer management blog. Another organization many people are familiar with, Points of Light, offers an annual conference on volunteering and service, recognizing programs like the Daily Point of Light Award and the President's Volunteer Service Award. And they also offer a volunteer recruitment site called All for Good. And then also the Council for Certification and Volunteer Administration offers a professional credential for those in the field of volunteer administration, along with the textbooks and pathway for achieving it. They do publish their professional ethics in volunteer management that can serve as a guide for all those working with volunteers. Everyone Ready is an online volunteer management skill building program featuring some of the best known names in volunteer management from around the world. It's not free, but many larger organizations have subscriptions, so you might find a partner with access to this resource or ask your supervisor if the organization you're VISTA with already has access to that resource. These are just a few of the many, many, many resources available in the field of volunteer management.
And this brings us to our fourth area we want to explore, resource development. VISTAs are capacity builders, and of course, one of the most common ways they build capacity is to generate financial resources for the organization or the community. Beyond your VISTA service, knowing how to raise money is a great skill to have if you plan to work in the nonprofit sector. The VISTA campus has an entire section on resource development with resources related to grant writing, fundraising, and special events. The tutorial on researching grants is a great introduction to finding funding opportunities. VISTA also offers a 10-week online course in resource development for which you can earn 3 college credit recommendations. And I highly recommend this course. I took it as a VISTA and it was really beneficial to me and the grant writing that I did in my service.
As we mentioned earlier in the webinar, the VISTA program does offer live and on-demand webinars related to resource development. And again, you can watch them at your convenience. And very quickly, there's webinars on creating an online fundraising strategy, because many people do now raise money online and virtually. There's a webinar on writing winning proposals, advice from an experienced grant reviewer, and a webinar on how to find funding opportunities. Remember to register in advance and add the webinar to your calendar. Your fellow VISTAs have shared a lot of information and advice on fundraising and grant writing through the campus forums. There's also a thread called Fundraising Ideas, where VISTAs are sharing just that, ideas for a fundraising event that they may have planned or may be in the process of planning. Other VISTAs look at donor tracking software, including Salesforce, and a compilation of grant-related resources. Again, these are just a few examples to give you a show of what they look like, but use the discussion forum search feature to see what else is there.
There are plenty of places beyond the campus to find information on resource development. Those of you who see yourself in the resource development field should check out the Association for Fundraising Professionals website and explore their professional development section. It includes everything from conferences and leadership training to executive institutes and certification. The American Grant Writers Association publishes the professional standards and code of ethics for grant writers. They also offer a free newsletter and a fee-based online course and workshop. There are also many local networks for grant writers, so see if there's one in your area. It could be a good way to meet others in your field. And of course, you will find a wealth of learning resources online as well. The Foundation Center and Grantsmanship Center offer a trove of information about private foundations, corporate giving programs, government grants, and other funding sources. They have online resources, trainings, and databases of funders. Some of the resources are by paid subscription, but there are definitely plenty available for free. GrantSpace is a service of the Foundation Center that offers free and paid training and online learning resources.
So now it's your turn, kind of like in that movie, The Rookie. It's your turn, Coach. If you didn't see it, I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't be quoting movies that I saw and no one else saw. But anyways, Now we want you to share your professional development resources that you would recommend to your fellow VISTAs. As we mentioned earlier, you are each other's best resource and have a lot of great ideas. Maybe you found a free course or an online resource that was especially helpful. Perhaps there's an affinity group or professional organization that you think really resonates especially well with your other VISTA coworkers. What was that one TED Talk you saw that you think everyone should watch? We'll wait a few minutes to see if comments come in the chat, because I know, as Ann mentioned, that all of you should be in a couple weeks into your service, so you probably either have ideas from your own experience, or you might recently have been given ideas from your supervisor or in your current experience about resources that you think it would be useful for other VISTAs to have and to share. Perhaps you've taken a course on Allison or Linda or Coursera. I see someone attended an SAVI training, which centers around data evaluation and visualization, which is actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, Danielle, because evaluation is key, and hopefully most VISTAs are doing or is part of the overall VISTA project is the evaluation piece, because people want to track and measure the success of not just your work as a VISTA, but the entire work that the VISTA program is putting together. Elizabeth said Young Nonprofit Professionals Network, Toastmasters, which we didn't mention, but I'm glad you did. That would also really helps with public speaking and public presentation skills. The Arizona Sustainability Council and the VISTA Campus. And also Elizabeth mentions some VISTAs that are taking classes part-time while they're serving as a VISTA might take a course during a program that is about evaluation or about an element of the VISTA service where the education not only helps the VISTA, but also they're learning a skill that's useful and beneficial to their VISTA project. So definitely keep these coming. We're going to keep watching these, and hopefully all of you on the webinar are also taking note and copying and pasting or looking at the chat as well, because some of these resources are great resources that we did not mention, but it'll be useful for you to take a look at as well.
Definitely. So we've talked a lot about specific sites and resources, and we want to give you a few more. Even with all of the online resources available today, brick and mortar public libraries are still valuable learning sites. All you need is a library card. Many local libraries have access to online databases and grant writing resources. Librarians are also very well versed in the latest digital trends and resources. Plus, many libraries offer free access to audiobooks, ebooks, movies, music, and more. Not to mention, libraries often have community bulletin boards that you can use to post notices for volunteers and community meetings. And you might even find a recreational or social opportunity for yourself, so be sure to check them out.
I will quickly add, yes, libraries are great. I still go to my local library, and you oftentimes, in addition to getting information that can help you learn, as Ann said, you find great resources and upcoming events that are really cool and are great places to go. In addition to that, there's the United States Census Bureau that offers free webinars on a range of topics related to using census data to better understand communities, whether it's looking at education and income levels in various neighborhoods, or maybe it's understanding who's living in your county or state. These webinars offer insights and allow you to conduct your own research based on your interests.
And then at the local level, you can get valuable information on community needs, available services, and other details about the social service landscape from organizations like your local United Way, Volunteer Center, or Chamber of Commerce. Some of these organizations also offer training and networking opportunities, so find out what's available in your community.
You can also carefully turn to the internet for free courses. You're probably familiar with sites like Coursera, Khan Academy, Allison, and Linda that provide free online courses. More specific to the nonprofit world are sites such as Nonprofit Ready, with dozens of free online courses in everything from project management to nonprofit accounting. The Alliance for Nonprofit Management and Free Management Library offer free and inexpensive articles, reports, handbooks, and resources on a range of topics related to nonprofit work.
Okay, so you get the idea. There are lots and lots of great resources out there, no matter what topic you're interested in. But we want to bring your attention back to the VISTA program for more tailored input into what you're doing. As we've mentioned, your fellow VISTA members, leaders, and supervisors are a great resource for information about what works in the VISTA context. So don't be afraid to reach out to each other.
Yes, it's a key component to VISTA service. VISTAs want to connect, and you can certainly connect with each other through the VISTA campus. Make sure you fill out your project area and interests in your VISTA campus user profile, and be sure to add a photo. That way you have a better chance of interacting and getting to know other people. You can use the discussion forums to interact, or use the map on the VISTA campus to find VISTAs and alumni in your area. VISTA alumni are often extremely happy to help current VISTAs get started, especially because VISTA, a lot of people have a lot of passion and energy around the VISTA program. You can also connect with the VISTA program and other VISTAs through social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Share your photos of service and tag @AmeriCorps VISTA. And if you're looking for the links, they're in the chat, as well as at the bottom of the VISTA campus, you can find the links to all of our social media outlets and accounts.
Whether you've been using LinkedIn or not, now is the time to create or update your profile. Within LinkedIn, you can search for AmeriCorps VISTA, go to our company page, click Follow. This will ensure that our curated job search advice updates show up on your feed. You can create or update your LinkedIn profile, post your service year under experience, select AmeriCorps VISTA as the company. The AmeriCorps VISTA logo will automatically populate the image field. And if you want, you can create a second entry listing your sponsoring organization as the company. Make sure to include the words AmeriCorps VISTA in your job title.
Thanks, Anne, for that segue into making sure that you do identify yourself as a VISTA. You want to be sure that in the emails you send out, put the VISTA logo in your email signature so it's, again, branding and makes you identify yourself as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. If you have a business card, do the same thing. But also you can see examples on the screen here. Make sure that your organization's website, social media platforms, brochures, or other communications mention that the VISTA program is powering your program. And be sure to wear that VISTA polo shirt with pride. The handout for this session does contain links where you can get VISTA logos, business card templates, and a free poster to use to decorate your office and represent VISTA in the field. If you want to order more VISTA gear, you can buy more VISTA gear at the National Service Gear store, and that's listed there too.
During PSO, you developed your minute message, a short speech about your organization and your role as a VISTA. Make sure to rehearse it often so that it comes easily to you and you can explain quickly what you do. There are plenty of resources on the VISTA campus that can teach you about creating these messages. So we've mentioned a number of resources and features on the VISTA campus that will help you stay connected and informed. Now we'll hear from an expert on the VISTA campus, Scott Weinrobe, who's going to show you how to access some of the features we mentioned during this presentation. So I'm handing it over to you, Scott.
Hey, well, thank you very much, Anne. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to be with you today and have a chance to tell you a little bit more about the VISTA campus. Anne and Eric have already told you a lot about the resources on the campus, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes tour of some of the features that you may have already noticed from your use of the campus so far. Most of these are tied to features that are unlocked once you have an account on the campus and are actually logged in. So as Anne and Eric mentioned, there are lots of resources on the campus. You'll find them especially in the Life as a VISTA, the Work, and Connect and Learn area. Those are, there's some other areas of the campus, but during your year of service, those are the three that I think you'll find most valuable. One feature of the campus that you've already come across during your pre-service period is the learning plan. And you can access your learning plan a couple of different ways once you're logged into the campus. From your home page, there's a link to go to the learning plan, or really from anywhere in the site, from any page, if you click on the little drop-down menu underneath your name, there's a link to take you to your learning plan. And probably the most important thing that you already have some experience with on the learning plan is the Starting VISTA page. Excuse me, that's the one required training that is automatically assigned to you whenever you create an account on the campus as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. But there's also, and that includes the pre-service coursework that you were required to do before you started service. But there's also a couple of other areas of the learning plan that I'll tell you a little bit more about. One is suggested learning, and the other is favorite content. With suggested learning, when you created an account, there were a few resources that were automatically recommended to you just as a VISTA member, but the suggested learning excuse me, area of the learning plan is also where you can recommend campus resources to your learning connections and where they can recommend resources to you. So keep that in mind for a moment. We'll come back to the learning connections. The other area of the learning plan is the favorite content, and that's basically designed to be an area that lets you easily bookmark and come back to resources that you find on the campus. So to add something to your favorite content, you can use you could either browse the site to find resources, or as Ann and Erica mentioned, we do have a pretty powerful search engine that runs behind the campus. So let's say that I heard from a fellow VISTA that there was a pretty good webinar that was offered on applying VISTA service to your resume and career. I can't remember the exact title, I just said it, but let's say I don't remember, but I do remember it was about your resume. So I'll type in resume, even without the accent, it should help me find the resource I'm looking for. So Ann and Eric had mentioned we have a faceted search on the campus. You can see that you can filter down in lots of different ways with these search facets. In this case, I happen to know that from my colleagues that it was a recorded webinar, so I'm going to filter down to just the recorded webinars and should bring up right towards the top here. So translating VISTA service to your resume and career. It's a recorded webinar, so it runs a little bit over an hour. So let's say I start watching it and then I have to go do something else. So I want to easily get back to it later to finish watching. Instead of finding it again, all I would need to do is just click add this to my learning plan. And the next time I go back to the campus and go to my learning plan, it'll be there waiting for me right under favorite content. So I mentioned also that you can suggest resources to your learning connections, and they can suggest resources for you. Let me show you how you make learning connections. Excuse me, sorry about the cough. Make learning connections on the campus. You can access learning connections to the Connect and Learn area, and this link again will only appear when you're logged in, but if you click on Learning Connections, it takes you to a page where you can search for other campus users. You can search for folks who have the same focus area as you, or in this case, let's say I want to connect with my supervisor, who happens to be named Celia Supervisor, so I can just type her name into the search here, and then there she is. I could click the little icon with a picture of Celia to go to her profile, or if I know I want to add her as a learning connection, all I have to do is click this little plus icon, and it'll ask me to confirm if I want to send Celia a learning connection request. I'm going to cancel, but if I click send, what would happen is that the system would automatically send that connection request, and as soon as Celia accepted it, I would be notified and Celia and I would be connected. And then when I go to a resource, I can either bookmark it for myself or I could suggest it for Celia, and she can do the same. So that's one way you can connect with folks on the campus. The other way, as has already been mentioned, is the VISTA map, which you'll also find in the Connect and Learn section. There's a link to the VISTA map. And you can zoom in to your area to find other VISTAs. Once you find someone you want to connect with, you just click, excuse me, their PIN, and then again click the little plus icon to send them a connection request. And then the last feature that I wanted to mention and really just kind of reemphasize, Ann and Eric had both kind of pointed out that this can be a really valuable source of information and a really good way to connect with your fellow VISTAs is through the forums. You'll find the forums also under Connect and Learn. There's a link to the forums. As was mentioned, the search for the forum, there's a special search engine that really just filters down to forum posts, and you'll find that on the main forum page. The reason we separated that out is because there are a lot of forum posts, and so we kind of pulled those out of the main search results so you can more easily find resources in the main search results, and just use this to search through the forum posts. You know, once you could either kind of search or you can browse by clicking on VISTA Forums, and then there's a list of the forums here. The VISTA Cafe is one of the really popular forums on the campus, and once you're logged in, you can either add a new forum topic or you can go to an existing forum post and add a comment. You can respond just by typing the comment in and clicking Save. So with that, let me go ahead and hand things back to Eric and Ann, and thank you all for letting me give you a little tour of the campus.
Thank you so much for that, Scott. We know that a lot of us have already taken a look at the campus, but it's really, really helpful to see where the various resources are housed and to learn a little bit more about how the campus functions so that you can make the most out of the website. So we greatly appreciate that tutorial. And as Scott mentioned, if you're really not sure of where to go or how to find stuff on the campus, we're going to give you some ideas as well as to what next steps you can take on the campus. You can visit the work section to explore the resources there, especially if you're doing stuff like we said around grant writing and volunteer mobilization. You can add a resource to your learning plan, as Scott demonstrated, so that you can easily find it later. And what I'm sure many of you will probably do after this webinar is connect with other VISTAs using Learning Connections, discussion forums, and the VISTA map. Now, we'd like to hear from you again. We have covered a lot of information today. What is one next step after you've heard from us and after you've heard from other VISTA members? What's one next step that you can take today after this webinar ends? It might be booking the VISTA member handbook on your learning plan. Maybe it's looking for an online course on the campus or on the World Wide Web. Or perhaps it's searching for the next community association meeting. Give us a couple of ideas as to what one next step you can take. And as we mentioned that, it's a good idea sometimes throughout your service to think about next steps, not just after the webinar, but also in making your service more tangible and relevant in detailing specific steps you can take, kind of like a to-do list that outlines what steps you want to take, and then you can cross them off as you achieve them and add them to your list of achievements. Let's take a quick minute and just post what one next step will you be taking towards your professional development journey after this webinar. I'm expecting someone to say, I'm going to call up Scott and have him show me the campus again, because Scott is a wizard and a guru and he knows all things campus related. But just post in the chat panel, again, not the Q&A, in the chat panel, any ideas you have about what you're going to do to continue your professional development journey. I know earlier people had mentioned they had already looked at Allison and Coursera, so I'm sure they'll look at some of those websites before. Someone else had mentioned attending in, I think I'm trying to find it, I think it was attending an orientation or a conference that their supervisor had mentioned, so that's certainly something else you can do in terms of next steps and wanting to build your personal and professional skills. And then someone else had mentioned getting to know the community, whether that's walking around the community and doing a community asset map and getting to know people. It might have been really just, excuse me, working with your supervisor to identify what the community entails, how large it is, what the scope of it is, and how you can better produce it. So definitely think about the ideas we mentioned, but also the ideas that are still posted in the chat and that you still may have an idea. And then, like I said, after this webinar, just take some notes for yourself about what next steps you want to take, and you can, if it's easy, you can separate it out to say this is a step I want to take towards my personal development journey, and this is a step I want to take towards my professional journey, just so that you can see the progress and you can see that not just from learning on this webinar and other resources, but you're able to really make an impact from yourself and for your project. So as you think about that, we're going to get to the very end of this webinar. So you probably have some questions, but before we start the Q&A presentation, we're going to open up an evaluation poll on the right side of your screen. So we'd like you just to take a few minutes, it shouldn't take very long, and answer the questions in the poll. Just a reminder, if you're on a smartphone or a tablet, you would not be able to take the poll, but if you are on a desktop or laptop computer, we'll leave the poll open for a few minutes. Please take the poll. We really appreciate your feedback in this presentation, as it helps us to make this better for other VISTAs, but also improve the future webinars that we do. And while you're completing the evaluation, we will start the Q&A portion of the webinar. Ann, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. I will invite our operator, Brad, back on to tell us how to ask a question.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question over the phone at this time, please press star then 1. Please unmute your phone and record your name at the prompt. If at any time your question has been answered, you can remove your request by pressing star 2. Once again, if you would like to ask a question over the phone, please press star then 1 and record your name.
And I'll also mention that you can ask a question using the Q&A panel located in the right of your screen. To reopen the Q&A panel, click the small triangle next to the letters Q and A, just below the evaluation poll panel.
And since we're on the webinar, obviously we want to focus the questions on learning opportunities and other ways you can develop as a VISTA, but we'll be here for a few minutes if you do have additional questions that are slightly outside of this realm, but we just want to make sure you get your questions answered, and we can point you to additional resources that either are online or that we can connect you with your supervisor or others to make sure you get the information that you need to succeed as a VISTA and afterwards. But as we wait a few minutes, and we'll turn it back over to Brad in a second, but if we don't have any questions in a few minutes, we'll end the presentation. But Brad, do you see any questions coming in so far?
We've had no responses at this time, sir.
I do know that one quick thing I'll say is sometimes people will ask the question, well, I think I've identified a resource or a conference I want to attend, but it looks like there's a charge. How do I go about getting a waiver or seeing if I can get a free application? There's a couple of things. One, we always recommend making use of your VISTA service letters that's in your my.americorps.gov account. And if you're ever attending a conference or anything, you can obviously let them know that you're serving as a VISTA, but also show them the service letter just so that they see that you're a VISTA, but also that your income is a little bit lower. And sometimes they may offer you a discount or a free entry. You should definitely also check with your supervisor. As we said earlier, sometimes your organization has a partnership or a way that they can connect you with the conference at a lower rate. Or occasionally your supervisor and organization may have additional funds to send you to a training, especially if it's something you're really passionate about and if it's something you really feel will benefit you in your VISTA project. Brad, we will turn it back to you one more time to see if there's anything coming in on the phone.
And, sir, once again, we've had no further responses.
Okay. Well, we certainly don't want to waste people's time or belabor the point. We have not seen any questions come in on the Q&A section of the webinar or in the chat panel, so I'll turn it over to Ann to talk about upcoming webinars that we have.
Thanks, Eric. We have an upcoming webinar on Thursday, September 6th called Maximizing Your Healthcare Benefit, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. and we hope to see you guys then. Make sure to watch for your inbox for announcements of other upcoming learning opportunities. And thank you so much for participating today. You shared some great resources and ideas for your colleagues to use. I'd also like to thank our production team, Andy and Scott, our operator Brad, and Eric, my fellow presenter.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and continue to enjoy your year of service. Make it successful and do all those great things that you're continuing to do in your communities and for your projects. Thank you again.
Bye.